Hello, everyone, and welcome to this edition of the Rebels 247 Roundtable. I'm David Johnson, and thank you for listening. We'll jump right into it. A huge game for Ole Miss. Saturday night at Vaught-Hemingway Stadium, 6 o'clock kickoff. The Rebels host the Auburn Tigers. The game is of much significance in the national playoff picture as the College Football Playoff Selection Committee unveiled their initial top 25 ranking earlier this week, and Ole Miss, to the surprise of a lot of people, number 4. And that number 4 ranking in the selection committee's poll means if the college football playoff started today, the Ole Miss Rebels would be a part of it. Now, on the opposite side of the field Saturday night will be the Auburn Tigers, number 3 in the College Football Playoff Selection Committee's first top 25. So basically what we have Saturday night at Vaught-Hemingway Stadium is a de facto elimination game. It's going to be awful hard for the loser of this game to climb back into that top 4. Ole Miss coming in with a 7-1 overall record, 4-1 inside the Southeastern Conference. Auburn 6-1, 3-1 inside the SEC. Now, going to be chilly Saturday night at the Vault. Will that affect anything at all? You know, it's the first cold game of the year, so you always wonder about that. Will there be a drop at a critical moment of the game? The weather always something to play a factor in games like this. But most of all, you're going to be looking at a matchup of strength on strength. Auburn's offense versus Ole Miss's defense, which many people believe is the best in the nation. But when you look at that Ole Miss defense, there is a chink in the armor, so to speak. LSU able to run for almost 275 yards on Ole Miss last Saturday night down in Death Valley in that heartbreaking 10-7 loss. Auburn comes in as a football team more than capable of running the football. They ran for more than 300 yards in a 42-35 win over South Carolina last Saturday night. So the Auburn offense versus the Ole Miss defense, something's got to give. Auburn has scored 20 points or more for 20 consecutive ball games. The last time Auburn didn't score 20 was in the Iron Bowl in 2012 when Alabama beat them 49-0. On the flip side of that, Ole Miss 10 straight games holding opponents to 20 points or less. So quite an impressive statistic right there for the Ole Miss Rebels. Now, keys to this ball game, Ole Miss's offensive line is something that we've got to take a look at. The Rebels are banged up front, no doubt about it. From the sound of things, after listening to offensive line coach Matt Luke speak on Wednesday after practice, it does not look like Ben Steele will get the start at center, so Steele probably going to miss his second consecutive start, and that creates a little bit of a domino effect of problems for Ole Miss up front. Robert Conyers will get the start at center most likely. Now, what that means is that if Laramie Tunsil has to come out of the game like he did against LSU with this bicep problem, that Van Cooper is going to switch from right tackle over to left tackle. Now, normally if that were to happen, Conyers would be available to come in at that right tackle position. That's not going to be the case Saturday night against Auburn. Durante Bolden tried to fill in at the right tackle spot last Saturday down in Death Valley. Did not work out real well. Coach Luke, however, more of a mental situation for Durante, an environment situation, I guess is the better way of saying that. In that, you're throwing an unseasoned guy into an environment like that at Death Valley, and, the Rebels operating on a silent snap count, and Durante a little slow getting off the ball, and he got whipped a couple of times. Now, Luke also said he has a few other contingency plans for this ball game Saturday night, so we'll be interested to see what happens if Laramie Tunsil has to come out of the ball game, and it starts this game of musical chairs up front on the Ole Miss offensive line. Now, as far as Tunsil goes, he's been practicing every day this week. He is wearing a shoulder harness. Looks like he's good to go. And to be quite honest with you, I mean, you'd almost have to have a leg fall out to miss this ball game, a ball game of this magnitude Saturday night in Oxford, where the nation will certainly be watching. Another key to this ball game, and he's a key to every single game Ole Miss plays, quarterback Bo Wallace. How will Bo bounce back? Will he bounce back after a subpar performance down at LSU? One of the worst, if not the worst, performances we've seen out of Bo Wallace since he become an Ole Miss Rebel. An excruciating way for that game to end with Wallace firing into the end zone. Obviously without the approval of head coach Hugh Freeze. That was not the play that was called. LSU interception seals the deal, and Ole Miss denied an opportunity for a potential game-tying field goal in the last seconds of that game. So, will Bo bounce back Saturday night? I think he will. Bo spoke to the media on Monday at the weekly press conference inside the Manning Center, and he kind of let it be known that he didn't necessarily like, and he was very diplomatic about it, but he didn't necessarily like the play calling. Said really and truly he would like to see perhaps a situation where there were some more passing being done, particularly on first and second downs. And I think he had a good point, really and truly. He said, hey, it's very difficult when you're facing third and long situations to be able to complete a pass against these SEC defenses. And by George, he's exactly right. And Ole Miss facing a lot of third and long situations Saturday night down at LSU, in large part because on first down we saw it time and time again in the second half. Hey, running right into that line of scrimmage for little or no yards at all. So it puts you behind the chains right after first down. Now, I expect Ole Miss is going to be a little bit looser with Bo Wallace on Saturday night. I expect they're going to let Wallace take a few more chances than what he was allowed to take down at LSU. And hopefully Bo won't have to decide he wants to take a chance on his own. But I think you're going to see Bo Wallace be able to kind of let it loose a little bit Saturday night against the Auburn defense. Now, that's not saying the fact that maybe Bo has been playing a little bit conservative because that's what the calls have been is a bad thing. You got to look at it like this, too. 5 games in SEC play, Bo Wallace has thrown 1 interception. And that interception came on a pass that he chose to throw on his own, not one that Hugh Freeze or Dan Werner dialed up. So, in a lot of ways, Ole Miss's offensive approach has been protecting Bo Wallace a little bit. But I just think that you come off that LSU loss, a 10-7 loss, without a whole lot of offensive production, offensive opportunities, so to speak, and you feel like, and listening to Hugh Freeze this week, you kind of think he felt like maybe they kind of went a little bit too conservative. I think they're going to try to compensate for that this Saturday night against Auburn. Very good Auburn defense, too. So I think everything is going to get locked and loaded. It's going to be a really, really fun night at Vaught-Hemingway Stadium. Now, again, in the polls, Ole Miss number 4 in the only poll that really matters, the College Football Playoff Selection Committee poll. In the AP poll, they're number 7 this week, the coaches poll number 9. And getting back to that College Football Playoff Selection Committee ranking, I don't know about how you guys feel about it, but I was shocked. I did not see Ole Miss cracking the top 4 after the 10-7 loss at LSU. Certainly, Ole Miss has to be very happy that they were, because everything remains in the palm of their hands. There's nobody they have to climb with the remaining schedule. You beat Auburn Saturday night, then you take care of Presbyterian, and then you've got an off week before you have to go up that hill over in Fayetteville and play the Arkansas Razorbacks in what's going to be a big-time test. Arkansas is a rapidly improving football team. They run the football, and that is the Achilles heel of the Ole Miss defense right now. I think we can say that after what we saw down at LSU. And then you've got Mississippi State in the Egg Bowl at home. So your 2 toughest games, Auburn and Mississippi State, conceivably your 2 toughest games are at your place. Presbyterian, come on, they're a cupcake. You just don't want to get anybody injured, and you hope you get a pretty good glimpse of what kind of quarterback Ryan Buchanan and Devontae Kincaid will be next season in that one. Arkansas is going to be a test. Mississippi State, obviously, will be a test. But the Presbyterian game really comes at a good time because, A, you're not going to have to play your starters the entire ball game there. That's just not going to happen. And then, B, after the Auburn game, you've got Presbyterian, you don't have to put a whole lot of focus on Presbyterian, to be quite honest with you. So you can start putting in some work towards Arkansas and Mississippi State. Gives you a couple of weeks to really start preparing for those critical final two ball games. But they don't mean much of anything, at least not in the national playoff perspective, if the Rebels don't take care of business Saturday night at Vaught-Hemingway Stadium. Hey, we're going to be doing a lot more of these podcasts coming up in the future. Try to do one every week, may even get a little bit more frequent than that. I certainly hope you enjoy it. I'll have guests on from time to time as well, so you're just not listening to me rattle on. Going to be some big-time visitors coming in for this ball game Saturday night. Some of them committed already, some of them not. Darren Kirkland, a 2015 four-star linebacker out of Lawrence High School in Indianapolis, Indiana, taking an official visit this weekend to Vaught-Hemingway Stadium. Javon Patterson, the big offensive line target from Petal, Mississippi, will be there as well. Check the visitor list on the board often. Check it several times a day. I'll be adding names as we get closer and closer to kickoff. And I want to say thank you for listening, and thank you for being a part of Rebels 247. I'm David Johnson.